The midseason panic and roster carnage has officially begun, with Toronto Defiant and Seoul Dynasty starting off in the headlines here on June 10th. Toronto, being the team we'll primarily talk about in this video, parted ways with Sam, OG, and Speedily, as well as their assistant coach, Wheat, while Seoul Dynasty went ahead and said their goodbyes to Profit with a PH, aka their rookie hit scan. And Toronto Defiant are going to be the big talk of the town for a lot of people, just because it's expected, but also really sad at the same time. Maybe expected because apparently this was kind of leaked by OG, I believe, or maybe someone else, that this core was going to break up. It wasn't going to last after their disappointing first half of the season, but it's also sad just because, for one, you gotta feel bad for Toronto fans. Once again, their roster is all over the place. They can never have a moment of peace. There's always got to be some sort of change. But also just the fact that this Toronto Defiant American Tornado core is already breaking up so soon, when a lot of us were so excited to see what they could do together at the Overwatch League level. It goes both ways, but I think regardless of your stance, this is probably the necessary thing for this franchise to do if they want to turn their season around before it's too late, because what they were working with unchanged just was not getting the job done. Their initial goal coming into this season, at least according to their guys, was to try and make a run for a top 5 spot in the Western Conference, but they have largely been unable to do so as they have massively underperformed and have basically gotten no impressive wins so far. And you'd have to imagine that both coaching and management recognize this. They might have 3 wins and there might be ample time to turn their season around before it's too late, but they also recognize that they got a bit lucky with their strength of schedule here in the first half. And now they're not going to have any of those gimme games in the second half. Their schedule is going to be a lot more difficult, and you'd have to imagine they probably realized that if they stuck with this core and they didn't make any changes, they'd probably have an even worse second half than what we saw in the first, therefore decreasing their chances of even making the knockouts, let alone the playoffs. Let's just be real with ourselves. The roster that they assembled has not been what they were promised to be. There's been a lot of underperformers at a bunch of individual positions. They knew that if they made no changes, they'd be sinking. So this is what you gotta do, no matter how sad it is to break up this kind of core, to break up those guys because they're so close with one another. This is necessary for the sake of your franchise. They were having meta struggles. Speedily was not cutting it basically on anything he played. Then you have somebody like OG who's been called out time after time for his positioning this season. It goes hand in hand, right? You need a tracer that can carry you and not always rely on his team, someone who can have those pop-off moments when needed. Speedily hasn't been that guy, not necessarily all his fault because he's never really been a tracer player, but it is what it is. That was supposed to be his main role on this team, and he failed. And you combine that with OG going down early in fights, it just puts Toronto at a severe disadvantage, and it makes it really hard to, turn the fight around and overcome things when you don't have enough of those individual carries. When it's all on just Ultraviolet and Hydron, you're just not going to win. They were probably the 2 biggest underperformers of this team in most people's eyes. Like, it is a team thing, but those guys are definitely the ones who stood out the most. The only release that some people are at least kind of questioning is Sam, and it's for the simple fact that the last couple of weeks, with him getting more playtime, he's pretty much been one of the only guys that looks like he cares and that looks like he wants to win. And now he's gone. You're getting rid of probably some of the only energy and fight I saw from Toronto Defiant over the last 3 weeks. However, I need to make it clear that Sam is most definitely not some must-have Giga Chad S-tier DPS player that automatically will make your team better all the time. There's no guarantee that he can even sustain what we saw the last couple of weeks. But on the other hand, he does not feel like part of the problem, at least to me. He's felt like more of the solution, at least here in the short term. Sam deserved better in my honest opinion, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world to see him go, and there's a chance Toronto Defiant could be on the rise ultimately if they end up finding the right DPS replacement for him. Which gets me into the next point with Toronto. What is going to be their play? How are they going to make this team better and turn around their season before it's far too late? Well, with the rumor that at least one Western team is interested in picking up some Eastern talent, I'm going to assume that Toronto Defiant are looking in the market for some players over in Asia. That seems like the direction they're headed right now. It looks like they want to add as much talent as they possibly can, and they know for a fact that the best players available right now all come from the East. What people need to realize is there are a lot of people from these contenders teams that were going off during the knockouts, even outperforming some of their OWL counterparts that you can now add to your team. A lot of these guys are entering free agency. A lot of these guys have already been officially released from their teams, and supposedly a lot of them are already in talks with certain OWL teams, which should get Defiant fans at least kind of exciting. I know that the news today is a little sad, but it just might be worth it in the end if you're getting some of the best possible players from the APAC region that are currently available. Defiant have some very obvious needs that need to be filled right now, and this is just such a simple way to possibly have a long-term solution to some of these issues. We've been talking about how they need a better Tracer player, how Speedily has just been below average statistically, while by getting someone like Spectra, you can immediately boost your Tracer situation and your solo carry potential at DPS if Hydron is not getting the job done. As part of Dreamers, this guy has been on a tear as of late. Those knockout games, he played some insane Tracer matches, even outperforming the likes of Prophet and Choice A1. And in general, he's a good flex to add to your team, just a great option with a lot more potential than what Speedily has shown. And then on the other hand, I think there's some decent main support options out there. I don't know if there's any life-changing supports, but at the very least, you could probably get someone who's more on the same page with his team, a bit better with his positioning than OG, and that's where somebody like Opener actually wouldn't be that bad. On Washington, he was not that good last year, but he has shown tremendous improvement since joining O2 Blast, and I think he would make a great addition to this team if those supposed signings do come true. The emotions here are so mixed. It's so depressing in a way because I really feel bad for the fans at this point. This is literally what they go through every single year. I feel bad for any Defiant fan. I can't even imagine supporting this team. It's ridiculous how often people are going in and out of this revolving door. They can never settle. They can never get the right team. They always pick up this sexy looking lineup on paper, but then they're never anything more than mid. It's gotten out of hand. It has literally been 5 years and they still cannot get it right. But hey, at least they realized that change needs to happen sooner rather than later this time. They didn't fall into the trap of the power of friendship and not being willing to break up these guys. They did the right thing by realizing there are issues, and I think that it could be in the best interest both of the fan base and for the franchise as we head towards the end of this year. Maybe these new moves benefit from them, maybe they don't. Either way, the future is uncertain, and that could be something that works to their advantage. Speaking of uncertain futures, we are on to the Seoul Dynasty, who I briefly mentioned before parted ways with Prophet with a PH. Their hitscan prodigy that they picked up from O2 Blast during the offseason is already gone after just a handful of games, and understandably so. I just don't think that the meta has lined up with what he brings to the table, and with those Widow nerfs coming through, it looks even worse for the guy. He's undoubtedly talented. He's shown that he can have a strong Ashe, a strong Widow, even a strong Sojourn, but none of that stuff has been all that relevant this year. We've seen a lot more Hanzo, and more importantly, we have seen a lot of Sombra. She has been heavy in the meta, and he has struggled greatly on that hero. Anyone who's watched the Dynasty's gameplay even a little bit this year definitely knows where I'm coming from. Sombra has been a major struggle for him, and a lot of the time, when he's stuck on that hero, it feels like his big brother, so to speak, Prophet, has been the only guy doing much of anything on that damage line. He just lacks the fundamental understanding of how to get value on Sombra, I feel like. He's not always in the right place at the right time, and his EMPs have been very bad. Some of the worst I've seen in the league this year, in fact. And sometimes this stuff just isn't coachable. Sometimes your fundamentals cannot improve enough for the sake of the team, and I think Toby has recognized this, and realized that it's probably a better idea to just move away from him. You really don't know what's going to happen with the meta. There's no guarantee it's going to suit his playstyle better, so it's best to just get somebody who suits your system a bit better, who's maybe a bit more proven on the Sombra. Again, kind of like with Toronto Defiant, you have to see that there is a lot of talent right out there for you to pick up. There's a bunch of solid performers from that knockout round on contenders teams that are looking for a new spot right now in the league. So here's your chance. Here's a quick chance, an easy chance perhaps, to improve your team here in the short term and maybe turn your season around, even if it's just a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, hitscan was far from the only problem Dynasty were dealing with so far this year. There's been some obvious weakness with their tank rotation, and support hasn't been the greatest either, so I think that other moves probably have to happen if Dynasty want to fully turn around their season and have a new identity that makes them stronger, but hitscan was one of the weaker parts of the team, so this is a good start. The question now is, who are the Dynasty going to get, and who should they get? Well, it just so happens that a couple of solid options from the knockouts on these contenders teams are now pursuing new dreams, and they're looking for an Overwatch League team. You got Probe from O2 Blast. He's a really good prospect. EasyHun, former LA Valiant DPS, and most recent hit scan for Dreamers is available. Apparently that's who they're looking to get. I don't have any confirmation there, but that's what all of the leakers are saying right now. That would be a massive move. My point is that there's good hit scan options that are definitely better than what Prophet has shown this season, that are stronger on Sombra, that also bring the same kind of explosiveness on hit scan. EasyHun in particular is already a proven AL talent. That would make a lot of sense. So Dynasty could be in good hands there. I think they're looking at an upgrade no matter what they choose to do. No matter what ends up happening, I think Dynasty fans are going to be happy with the decisions that are made. Dynasty are never a team that likes to sit around and be satisfied with their poor work. They're always trying to make changes and make improvements. They strive for success in this league, and I think we're going to see that play out firsthand with some major changes that hopefully make them just a better overall squad that's more competitive and more fun to watch in half 2 of this year. For now, though, all we can say is Dynasty probably have some big moves in store, and that the Prophet and Prophet duo is officially dead. A commentator's worst nightmare is over, and part of me is saddened by that because it was absolutely hilarious, but what can you do? And on that note, that's basically all I've got for you in this one. That's what the Toronto Defiant and Seoul Dynasty are currently up to here in the news. Let me know what you think about their releases down in the comments below, and if you think their teams are going to get better from this, and what you'd want them to do if you were in their shoes. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you want to stay up to date with all the most recent news in the Overwatch League, make sure to subscribe to this channel if you're new and give this video a big fat thumbs up, because I promise you there is a lot more stuff on the horizon. This is only just the beginning of the mid-season chaos. This has been ATP, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.